Our panel is on teaching methodology on how to promote students from Shodan to Yondan. We're going to be having discussions on certain questions that I've developed in consultation with other instructors as well as the examination committee members. And we hope that it will help people not only in their own solo practice, but also if you're an instructor and you have to try and teach classes as well as help students prepare for Dan ranking tests. I hope that we can bring our enthusiasm and also our experiences forward that will, help people. The way this panel is going to work is, as I said previously, I've developed a number of questions in consultation with other instructors, and I'm going to direct the questions to the panel members who receive the questions ahead of time. And once the questions have been answered, I'm going to see if there's a rebuttal, see if we can add on to each other's experiences, or even give a little bit of feedback back and forth. I want this to be a fun, organic session, and we're just going to jump right into it. Steve Sensei, first question to you is about coaching people getting ready for any one of the Dan rank tests. As you know, we're expected to have somewhat of a vigorous practice for about 12 to 15 minutes or so. So I want to talk about the importance of being mindful of students and practitioners' physical thresholds. So flexibility, physical fitness, and safety in the dojo when you're trying to create a good physical activity that will get people prepared. So do you have any comments? What are your experiences? How do you tackle that?
Okay, thanks very much, John, for letting me share my thoughts on this topic. First of all, I want to say that I think the test preparation process is incredibly important, and it's a really, really lucrative time. Aikido doesn't have the same kinds of training methods as some other martial arts in the competitive sense. So we need other avenues to really push ourselves. And I think testing is one of those. So I take the test preparation process really seriously. It always starts the same. I ask for a commitment from the student to come 2 or more times a week for a year. If there's no commitment, there's no test and there's no exceptions. So they have to take it really seriously. I think this is a time to really challenge the student. So while I may push some more than others, everyone gets pushed. And as long as an instructor is paying attention to the individual student, we can do a lot to mitigate the risks of injury or gross fatigue, that sort of thing. Initially, those are my thoughts. Ivan, would you like to add something before I go in a little bit deeper?
Well, I guess maybe I just echo what you said about how important test preparation process is, I think, and George Houston Sensei talked about this today as well, right? That's basically the same thing you said. And I think another part of the test preparation process that we've seen in the last, the last 20 years, because Karahara Sensei was like it as well. He wanted to see basic techniques. And Osawa Sensei usually wants to see fundamental techniques. They don't want to see big, fancy things. And so I think another part of the test preparation process is really focusing, every few years, the instructors and the students go back and focus on those basics again to get ready for the test. So that's sort of kind of along the lines of what you were saying.
Okay.
I find in my experiences, when I have a group of people that are actively volunteering to help an individual, I always say right at the very beginning, at least for the first month or 2 months, to the ukes, don't challenge in any way. Just take, even if the technique is wrong, just take a nice fall. because everybody has to get in shape together. And I find that getting ready for testing is the best for the entire dojo, because when people volunteer to take ukemi, they're taking a lot of ukemi. And after tests, I find that the entire dojo's ukemi spikes up a couple of levels. It elevates everybody's practice.
You're absolutely right, John. The
Yeah.
process of getting ready for testing is good for everyone that's involved.
Yeah.
If it's managed and run the right way, it's really, really, really productive. I think that's important.
I feel it can build kind of the dojo spirit too, right? Everyone has that common purpose. Everyone's working together on it. I think that's a really good part of it.
Steve, with the importance of
Yes.
physical thresholds, do you have a certain plan on when you want your students to peak? Because you certainly don't want students to peak too soon. And you definitely do not want to incur any unnecessary injuries at all, but certainly just before a test. So we need endurance, we need cardiovascular, we need muscle endurance. How far before a test do you ramp up the physical training? Is it done gradually, or do you do it in spurts? Are you conscious of it?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not a professional coach, so this idea of peaking at just the right time, I don't have a foolproof plan for that. I just pay attention to how the student's doing on a continual basis. But I will say I begin the process by doing, I call it like a stamina test. Basically, we practice Aikido really vigorously until the student knows without any doubt that they're not in any shape to take or pass a test. And we do that on a regular basis until I can tell that they're going to train hard enough to pass this test. Almost everyone approaches the test thinking, yeah, I'm in pretty good shape. I know I probably have to get in better shape, but I'm probably okay. So the first thing I do is convince them that they're nowhere near okay. Because the type of improvement that I want to see from the beginning to the end is more than they're expecting. That's always the case. I've never had anyone that's expected to grow as much as I expect them to grow. So I have to convince them that this is going to be a terrible, terrible time for a little bit. You're going to love it after, but you're going to hate me for a little while. And then throughout those various stamina tests or those really vigorous practice sessions, we mix in some technical review and some zanshin, some mai, some kumae focus stuff to make sure that the test has good composure from a well-rounded perspective. That's how I approach it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen that we already have some questions, but I'm going to lead into the next question, which I'm going to be heading up on, and I'm going to try and quickly nip this in the butt. The question is about older students who want to test. So, okay, what is an older student? I'm pushing 50 now, and I remember when I first started hitting the 40s, I needed a little bit longer to warm up to do vigorous practice. Now that I'm 49, but I'm more concerned about my heart rate. Testing is a very stressful situation, physically and mentally, but you get to a certain age where you have to be more mindful of your blood pressure. I mean, it's just the reality of it. A test is a very physical test, and it can raise your blood pressure. So the official stance from the examination committee is that older students who wish to do testing are able to do the exact same test as everybody else. They can just take longer. So my question is, what does that mean? How do you do that? I've seen a number of tests over the years. The first time I saw people who were a little bit older test was for a Nidan test in Montreal. And what struck out the most is first of all, technically it was brilliant, but from beginning to end, the entire test was done at the same moderate speed. And I don't know if people understand how difficult that is. That takes practice. One of the worst tests I've ever seen was a friend of mine from another dojo who had some breathing difficulties with his lungs, and his uke wore him out within the first quarter of the test. The examiner was Yamada Sensei. He knew about the breathing difficulties, and he said, you know, take your time, come back into the test when you're ready. And I want to bring this out right at the very beginning. What this student did was the wrong thing to do. He stopped moving immediately and dropped to one knee to catch his breath. If your heart rate and your breathing is elevated, you have to make sure you slow it down naturally and don't stop moving. You have to continue moving until it slows down naturally. That's the safest way to do it. So how do you do this? I've been involved in a couple of people who are a little bit older who want to test, and I've taken ukemi for them. And my practice, what I've done is during test preparation, I devised this plan, and whether the person knew it or not, and she's logged in today, I always attacked hard and fast, no matter what. But every time I was thrown, I made it a conscious effort to slowly get up, slowly get to position, and then I took an extra couple of breaths and pause before the next attack. And then I was thrown or pinned. I would slowly get up, slowly get back to position, pause, and attack fast again. So first of all, double check with your doctor to make sure you're in the right physical position to test. But you have to practice how your test is going to be. You have to get ukes that you trust, and you don't just figure it out before your test. I think the most important thing is, if people want to test, is you have to have a strategy where you attack fast and then pause. Attack fast and pause. Don't do an attack and attack and attack. And if anybody's ever taken tests where you've taken ukemi, you want to do a good job. And you get very enthusiastic and you attack faster and faster and faster, thinking this is great. And I think the responsibility is on the uke to be mindful of the test candidate and how well they're doing. So that's a practice that I've used that I think is very useful. So that your your nage always has an opportunity in which they can catch their breath. So that's one of the useful techniques that I've used for people who do sorry, go ahead.
You're talking for older test candidates, right? Who can't maintain a high intensity test. Is that right?
Yes, like when you get to a certain age, you have to be more mindful, not just of your muscle stress, but also your heart rate. It is a reality that we are all faced with, or we will be faced with. And in a dojo, it's a very controlled environment where you can monitor somebody's heart rate and make sure they're increasing their activity. But when you're on a test, it's stressful. And you have to be mindful. You don't want anybody, God forbid, to have any heart difficulties or breathing difficulties during their test. So that was one technique that I've used. And it was used in the dojo as test preparation. Ivan, I know that you said that you have a number of students that are looking forward to testing, and that's something that you're concerned with. Do you have anything to add?
I think it's, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's, everyone in the dojo, obviously, every Dan candidate is older than the last time they practiced, the last time they tested, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I guess it's something that we just need to think about, but I don't have any great solutions. I mean, I guess one thing that was told to me once was that during preparation, you should go hard during preparation, but then take breaks when you need to, in order to try to build up that stamina. I'm not sure that was that. Maybe that was a general comment, right? Instead of like during the test, maybe you go slow, but maybe during the preparation you go, and then if you need to take a break, you break, but then you go at it again. I don't know whether that's.
Well, I'm being very mindful of the time. I really wanted to include that in our question period.
Can
Steve,
I say one thing, John?
Absolutely.
It'll take me 60 seconds.
Go right ahead.
The most positive feedback I've ever received from a test candidate was for someone who tested for Shodan at age 65. And what Yumi Sensei said was, even though his test wasn't fast and it wasn't as intense as the previous test, because we had tested somebody in their 20s, right? He had a better composure consistently from beginning to end, good zanshin, good control of mai, and always his komae was consistent. It never failed. So I think it's totally possible to do excellent, high level, really exceptional tests for older people if you focused on the right training methods and preparation methods.
Absolutely. And I think that comes from the dojo. Don't try and figure this out just before your test. It really has to be stressed during the test preparation. We're going to jump back to an important question that Steve really wanted to tackle, and then we're going to jump on to Ivan. Steve, as in the Q ranks that have certain targets for each rank, in your experiences, what are the primary targets that you think are important for Dan ranks, Shodan through to Yondan?
Okay, it's not really fixed, because I'll be honest with you, I've really only prepared 3 students for Yondan for my entire time of preparing test candidates. Maybe I've had 20 Shodan tests, but very few at higher levels. So I have a pretty good understanding of what I want at Shodan, and it's okay at Nidan. At Sandan and Yondan, it's still really needs to be ironed out. But here's what I think about Shodan. They just really need to be showing that they're trying hard and that they've been paying attention in class and they're putting in sincere effort. They really only need an introductory technical mastery. For Nidan, I really like them to have practiced sincerely after Shodan, and lots of times that takes more than 2 years. I don't think I've ever had a Nidan test in 2 years, even if they're training 3 times a week. It just takes longer to tighten up the basics for me. Their basic and fundamental techniques are solid and reliable, and they're demonstrating a developing use of their center, which is their legs and their hips.
And that's at Nidan? So
that's at Nidan, right?
Would you say that Shodan is a clear understanding of Omote Ura posture basics, and then Nidan would be all that plus a better understanding of hip power and a deeper understanding of what we've seen already?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's pretty close to it. I'm going to add a couple things for Sandan and Yondan, but like I said before, I don't really have those ones pinned down. For Sandan, I like to see their technical ability really sound. I'd like to see speed and power emerging because their center, which is the use of their legs and their hips, has been built upon from Nidan. They're starting to become capable of adapting to changing circumstances. And when it comes to Yondan, in addition to all of that, they have a clear ability to change and adapt when things that are done fast and powerful don't go quite as they've expected.
Ivan, do you have any follow-up before I throw a question at you?
I don't think so. I think, I wanted Steve to do this one, but I think he did a good job. I mean, certainly when you watch a test, it's clear that there's clearly a difference, but I think Steve's probably summarized it pretty well where you want to aim. Yeah. I mean, I almost feel like Shodan and Nidan are kind of in one group and Sandan and Yondan are the other ones. So they're kind of more similar, and there's a bigger jump between Nidan and Sandan. But I can't quantify that, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I find that Sandan, I like to see where the real power starts coming out. And for me, Yondan is a maturity of level where, you know, the timing is just excellent. The presence is excellent. Um, and you can see, I like that our testing is almost the exact same. And you can see a big jump at each level. And, you know, speaking of levels and different interpretations, I'm going to send this over to Ivan about, you know, we have a number of students and lineage from different instructors across Canada. Whether, you know, Massimo de Villadorata Sensei created the first Aikikai dojo and he came from Tada Sensei. You have influences from Yoshinkan. You have influences obviously from Kawahara Sensei and Yamada Sensei. So when we look at the diversity of Canada, we look at a diversity of techniques. So Ivan, in your experiences of training with different instructors and practicing with people from even from the Awama group of practice, what do you do if you go on a test and you're from a different kind of interpretive way of doing techniques? You know, how do you prepare to make sure that, you know, if you don't see Ozawa Sensei a lot, if you don't see the other examination committee members, how do you make sure that when you test, you know, you come from a different style of practice, it's still what the examiners want to see?
Well, I think you have to try to do what they want, right? I mean, we're obviously here in Newfoundland, so we don't have seminars every week. We travel a lot to seminars, and we do that, right? In a normal year, not the last couple of years, I usually travel a couple times to seminars to keep up with things. So I think we have to try to do that. Now, obviously, people have problems. If you have young kids, it's difficult. Financially can be difficult. Work things can be hard. I mean, the CAF does have, you know, subsidies for bringing in senior instructors to help out in your dojo. At the summer camps, there are bursaries for people to get there, right? I think it's important to get to those seminars and try to know what's happening. And my feeling is that it's something I've been kind of talking about recently is you have dojo Aikido, and then maybe you have testing Aikido. And I think maybe as a organization for tests, we need to aim to produce a kind of a certain testing Aikido, and that's going to have to be what Osawa Sensei wants because he's the chief of the examination committee, right? And so that doesn't mean that everybody has to do exactly the same thing. I don't think. Obviously, there's going to be lots of variation depending on your backgrounds, but I think you have to try for that. But at the same time, I think the examination committee understands if someone comes from a very different background and it's going to take some time to get used to things. And so I don't think there's no point like going to camp and then trying to change everything because you can't do that, right? So I think maybe with time we need to try to aim for that, but I don't think it means that you'd have to take 10 years off until you've got completely used to the style, right? I think the examination committee knows people's backgrounds, right? I mean, this is all very kind of this is quite well done nowadays, I think, and I think that would be understood. I mean, I think the other thing with this is, maybe this is a little bit out of the way, that, you know, people fail tests sometimes, and that's pretty normal nowadays, right? I mean, and you know, people fail, and so in that case, maybe if you came from a very different background, you'd misjudge what you needed to do. After the test, you'll be told how to correct it, right? And I think and then people almost always pass, I think, the second time, right? Once they, you know, make that effort. So
you see, I when I've helped people from other dojos, I've shown up and spent some time, and they may do things slightly different from the way I've tested. And I've always said, like, I don't care what version you do. you have to make sure you are consistent in showing 2 emote and 2 ura, no matter what. I failed my second Q test in front of Yamada Sensei when Yamada Sensei used to do Q rank testing. And it's still one of my favorite tests, even though I failed. But my primary teacher at the time was Bill Collins Sensei, and he never taught emote and ura. He just did Shihonage no matter what happened. You know, he did it in multiple different ways and said, okay, do Shihonage. So when the examiner, Yamada Sensei, called for a Riminage, I did it like 5 different ways, you know, 3 different versions with 2 different types of entries. And he made it quite clear, do what I ask. I asked, like, it doesn't matter what version you do. The first 2 should be a clear emote. The second 2 should be a clear ura. Like, I think that if you come from a different style, I think it's very important, if you don't see Ozawa Sensei often, make sure you always clearly do 2 emote and 2 ura. Every time.
I think the other thing you sometimes see for people who maybe haven't seen so many tests is they show up for the tests, and especially during the Jiwaza, they do lots of all kinds of, you know, quite elaborate techniques. And that's not what the examination committee wants to see, right? It's pretty clear. You're supposed to do, I mean, we've been told you do a Shionagi, you do an Arimanagi, you do a Kodageishi, you do a Kaitenagi, and then you do something else, right? You're always supposed to do the basic ones, right? In the Jiwaza.
Yes, but they also do want to see some variations outside of the 5 or 6 basic throws. They do. I believe they do want to see a little bit more variation, but you're absolutely right, Ivan. For Jiwaza, definitely show the basic throws that you can do them just spontaneously.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end. We have 23 seconds left, and of course, I thought we would have more time to, you know, jump on some of these questions. But I do have some questions from the chat group, which I'd like to throw out there to both Steve and Ivan. Steve, you first, since Ivan just answered the question.
Sure.
Who helped you prepare for your final? Whoop, there we go. Your final tests. So I guess Steve, you were already a Yondan when Ozawa Sensei showed up. Is that correct? So
yeah, the last test I took was for 4th Dan with Kahara Sensei.
Oh, you did test. So who helped? You did test on the Kawahara Sensei for Yondan? So who helped you prepare for that? And who was
Nobody.
Nobody. Well, who was the highest ranked member of your dojo? I believe a lot of us have to do a lot of solo practice because our instructors would be off teaching as well. I was in the same boat as you, Steve. Nobody. I luckily Yumi Sensei allowed me to go to her dojo to practice because she had some experienced ukes. What about you, Ivan? Was anybody able to help you, take ukemi, coach you?
We've been lucky in our dojo. We've always had good people for taking ukemi. So Chin Sensei was still the head of our dojo then, so he contributed, but it was still a large part of self-training, right? Again, though, you know, there was quite a lot of input from Yumi Sensei when she visited us, and I talked to her camp and stuff. So.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
Having good ukes is one thing.
Yes.
That's super critical. But the problem with getting ready for testing is if there's nobody standing there pushing you, it's really hard to push yourself to the point where you're exhausted, especially when you're the most senior person in the dojo. Like the first thing that happens when I start pushing a test candidate is they stop and they start asking me questions about this and about that and about this and about that because they're dying.
Yeah.
So you need somebody that controls the pace of the practice that's not you.
Yes.
If you don't have that, you have to have an incredible degree of discipline to put yourself into that condition that's going to make you better. That's really hard when you're the senior guy.
And I would recommend, like a lot of the times I volunteered myself to help students get ready for testing. And when other people would start chiming in and say, that wasn't right, or do it again, I had to make a conscious effort to tell people there's one coach. Only one person can bark out the orders to push people to get ready. So yeah, I agree with that 100%. When I was getting ready for Sandan, people took over the responsibilities to coach me and push me further and further and further as well. I just got word from our CAF administrator, we can go a little bit long. So my next question is the importance. I think this one is very, very important, and I think we'll end with this and try and follow up with any other questions. It's the importance of presence on the mat. So how important is stressing the non-tangibles such as Zanshin, Mai, and Kamai? So Kamai meaning stance and posture. Zanshin translates to lingering spirit. So after you throw, you're still connected to your uke. And of course, Mai, combative distance. We've all seen thousands of tests at this point. My question is, which ones do you remember? Are they the ones that have these intangibles, or are they the tests where people just slam each other into the ground? Ivan, do you want to take a quick jump at these
Yeah,
concepts?
well, I mean, there are a couple of tests that I remember really well, and they were all really exemplified exactly those things, right? I mean, I also remember tests where there was a lot of really hard throwing, and I remember especially Karahara Sensei getting mad at people afterwards because they weren't. There was one Randori I remember years ago, and the person was like, I was one of the Ukis, and Karahara Sensei, he used to say sometimes you like be nice, go hard, or take them down, right? And as Ukis, we were going with everything we had, and we could not touch this person. But Karahara Sensei still got mad at them at the end because he said, they weren't showing, proper positioning, moving around, right? They just kind of all stayed in one spot, right? And they didn't show these things. So, in the test I remember best was, this perfect poise, perfect distance, perfect response. So I think that's what really makes a test, especially the higher level ones.
Yes, and we've had an interesting question on the chat where it says the coach doesn't necessarily have to be the most technically able person. And I think that's important also, because you need somebody to monitor the pace of the practice, but also as Ivan was just talking about, the intangibles, you need somebody to yell out at the person preparing, Zanshin, pay attention. Like, you need somebody to bark these orders at you, not just to throw and then go, oh, I'm exhausted. Okay, next uke. You need somebody to always be jumping on that, to pay attention, keep your hands up, keep the proper mind. These are part of the importance of having people continuously helping you, not just attack and fall. I
mean, I'll just actually say for this particular test I'm thinking of, at the end of the test, there's a whole bunch of tests. It was in BC. Karahara Sensei sort of told everyone off, and then he called this particular candidate over and told her what a good job she'd done. Didn't apply to her.
Yeah.
So,
Steve, one of the questions has been about the physical preparation. Let me just check the time. We're just about done. But for physical preparation, do you advocate the testers to do any extra fitness classes outside of the dojo, whether it be cycling on a bike, or spin classes, fitness classes, CrossFit? Do you push your students to do extra outside of the dojo? And if so, do you have anything that you recommend?
I don't necessarily push them to do anything extra inside the dojo. I run an Aikido class where there's a cardio component in every class that exhausts everybody. So if they're coming to 3 Aikido classes a week, they don't need any extra cardio. But I certainly wouldn't say that that's a bad idea. I think it's a great idea. It's just, I kind of take ownership and I take the responsibility in preparing the student completely. And if they're coming to 3 of my classes a week, they don't need any extra cardio.
I have one last follow-up question and then I'm going to end up. I think it's an important question. What do you do if there's somebody who does not want to test? Well, I think part of our process is trying to test. We have processes in place where we can do testing inside a dojo, where you do not have to test outside at a summer camp. I think talking to the examination committee about having different options for people who may have, social anxiety, the best practices to help them still have an excellent test, but not be so overwhelmed with the process. I think the examination committee members are all very well versed in helping people come up with better options. I'm going to extrapolate it just a little bit more very quickly. If somebody is physically unable to do a test outside of the dojo because of age and physical restrictions, what should you do? I think that's also something that's very important. At Aikido Seishinkai with Houston Sensei, we had a number of people who were physically not in a good position to do a test. They still did the same test preparation as everybody else, but inside the dojo it's a controlled environment where we're able to make sure it's done safely. And then when we went to a seminar for testing, I know that Houston Sensei had a discussion with Yamada Sensei in the testing committee where he said, this person here is at an age and a health level where it's too dangerous for them to test. But they have done the exact same test preparation as the other candidates who will be testing. And this person did pass my pre-test, because at Houston Sensei's dojo, there was always a pre-test that you had to pass before doing a Dan test. So they said, if my other candidates do well, this candidate did the exact same process as the ones that are testing. And I do believe the discussion went something like, with your blessings, I will recommend them for their promotion if you think that they did well. So I know that Yamada Sensei liked that sort of thing and took particular attention to look at the test, the person who would be up for recommendation at the seminar. He would view them, look at them, and then look at the other test candidates who did do the physical test. And if he was overall happy, I know that he gave Houston Sensei his blessings for a promotion by recommendation. I think if somebody is not physically able to test safely, they still should go through the same process inside the dojo, which is a environment which is controlled and a little bit safer. So I think it's very important that if somebody physically cannot test, they can still do a pre-test or a mock test in the dojo and then consult the examination committee members to the process in which they've gone through. I think that's one scenario. I just wanted to cover that up because I think that's useful.
I mean, I'll just say something quickly, John. I mean, I've been I haven't had it in our dojo recently, but I've been in dojos where there's people who have just wanted to practice and not test, and if that's what they want to do, that's okay, I think. I think in all those cases I've known, eventually the person has decided they were going to do a test, but I don't think there's any need to push people to test if they just want to practice.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we did have a lot of questions start rolling in as we go, but it looks like we are now, we're right at the last few minutes. Before we go, Steve or Ivan, do you have anything else you would like to jump into?
I'll just say one thing about the testing anxiety issue. I've had several students who are adamant they're not interested in standing up in front of the class and doing a test ever.
Yes.
But my whole program is built on gearing expectations towards what rank are you? So as a teacher, every class I teach, how I structure my lesson plan, everything is rank, 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 and expectations grow with rank. So for me, it's a problem. The student that just doesn't want to test ever, it's a problem. When I was younger, I just let it go because I didn't know what to do. But then I realized this is a problem and it doesn't work for me. So I figured out a way to get this student to test. And sometimes it's just, okay, find a partner while the class is going on, you, me, and that partner, I'm going to call all the techniques, you pass or you fail, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And over on the side, when there's other stuff going on, that's never been a problem. I've never had a student that's like, I don't even want you to watch me do the moves. I've never had that. And so enough of those, and maybe I can call in a second instructor. Okay, can you call the moves and I'll just watch? Now we got 2 people watching. Okay, now we've got a little bit of progression, right? It's growing a little bit. And next time maybe it'll be, okay, I need to help one of my other instructors watch for what's important. So now there's going to be 3 of us watching you. Is that okay? Okay, well, now it's people that they know and people that they've trained with. It's just a growing ability. Eventually, these students take a black belt test like anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had anyone that's so adamant that they can't do any form of testing. I've always tried to find some way to get the student to test, recognize the promotion, and carry on. They may not test at summer camp or a seminar outside the dojo, but I mean, we can do all the way. We can test all the way up to Nidan and Sandan without going to a separate event. So I don't see that as a big issue. Personally.
No, I know that I have come across people with a certain anxiety about being on display. And I think Steve's technique is a really excellent way to test them without putting them on the spot. I regularly have Houston Sensei come to my dojo. And luckily, I'm very lucky for that because he can observe my teachers through their, my students through their progression. And when it does come time for testing, if they do have a certain amount of anxiety, then he is fully aware of that if he's doing testing at my dojo. So I think the flexibility of the instructor is also very, very important. Personally, I love testing. When I tested for Sandan, there was about 200 people at the Montreal seminar when I tested. And I find that I was able to just blank everything out. I mean, the best thing about testing is that everything is on you. And I don't mean that for pressure. I mean, everybody is there to really support the test candidates. And I think that's a wonderful thing to promote, not just your skill, but the community spirit that Ivan Sensei talked about. Before we let you go, Ivan, do you have any final comments? And then Steve, over to you.
Maybe I'll just say something of that. So I think the 2 most stressful events in my life were my Shodan test and my Nidan test in that order. And then I'm, you know, and yeah, and then then there were things beyond that because I was younger then as well. And when you get older, it's not quite so stressful. When you're younger and you've only practiced in one dojo, you feel a huge pressure because you feel like you're representing the dojo, you're going to let everyone down. That's not really the way it is, but that's how you feel at that age, I think, right? As you get older and you've traveled around a bit, which was the case by the time I did my Sandan and Yondan, I figure, well, no one can really blame it on anyone in particular now. It's just my fault, right? And then it didn't seem so bad. But it is so stressful.
It is.
My wife always says during my Nidan test, I was green. So.
Yeah. Well, I remember your Nidan test.
Yeah.
Because I took a Joe across both of my shins. Steve Sensei, any final comments before we move on?
Nope, I've said my piece.
Okay. So obviously there was a lot more that we wanted to continue to talk about. I want to thank Steve Sensei and Ivan Sensei for their patience and working with me during the development of this panel. And of course, the organizers, Anita's team, who did a fantastic job. And thank you everybody for signing in and your questions. I tried to incorporate them all. If anything really needed to be answered, but we didn't, please email me and I can certainly contact the instructors and do a follow-up. So thank you so much for getting through the Zoom fatigue, and I hope everybody had a great time. Anita?
Thank you so much, John. Steve and Ivan Sensei, all of you, thank you so much for your thoughts on this really, I guess, kind of complex like topic. And I feel like it's just become such an individual process for everybody to go through this idea of what it is to kind of climb the ranks after you do your Shodan test, and how you grow as a person. It's such a journey. Thank you everybody who is so actively contributing in the chat box. I know we weren't able to address all of the questions. However, the chat along with the video is being recorded, so any relevant sections I might actually even forward to the panelists and see if they'd like to discuss it even further for different components. And sadly, this is the end of our seminar. And I cannot thank all of you enough for being here and being present and like participating in one way or the other and being so actively engaged through the chat box and even just saying hello and greeting and showing your presence. Once again,
Let me just interrupt a second. I think we can't thank you guys, you, Anita, and the whole team enough for actually doing all the work. So, it's been amazing.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you so much for being so supportive and for being here, and for your dojo for being here as well. A few from Newfoundland made it through. I want to thank my team once again, and I will name them quickly, like Mirna Harod Tanaguti for doing the copy for all of the, like, any edits on bios, any mail outs. She was the one to write that up for me. Wee Yi, who isn't here today, but like she was at Osawa Sensei's class yesterday. She did all of the French translations within a timeline that was like just commendable. Like I couldn't thank her enough. My project coordinators, Rick Shields and Chris Nguyen, Kristen Jarrett, Taka Suntos, and Jim Redding. And on the registration side, I have Jim Redding again, Ted Yoshioka, and Kim Riddick. My fellow board members, Steve Erickson, Colin Brown, John Foster, Michelle Lapointe, Ted and Kim as well, and for connecting and facilitating everything with Osawa Shihan, Yumi Nakamura Sensei, Jim Barnes Sensei, and George Houston Sensei. And one final big shout out to my tech support team, Wingpack, Grant Babin, Samuel Sirois, anybody else who's been offering me emotional support, whether in the form of like Aikido training or just like being a good friend and checking up on me. Thank you so much. This has been like incredibly, I don't know, it just somehow, I didn't expect it to have the same impact as it would going to a physical camp. And it definitely doesn't translate the exact same way. However, it did bring about that feeling of community that we've been just advocating throughout the course of the seminar. And I hope this has been a really great event for you too. And please do not be shy to let us know what you thought, and we'll probably send out a survey and ask for any feedback, because this probably won't, there will be future incarnations of something like this where we would want to reach out to you and have us all in this kind of either virtual space or in-person space. So please stay tuned for that. I want to remove myself from the spotlight because I look really big here. But let's go back to gallery view for everybody. But yeah, if anybody wants anything to say, please go ahead. We're all here together. We're all listening. But like the chat is also exploding. Thank you.
Shall we just
Yep.
nominate you, Anita, just to organize everything from now on?
I second that emotion.
Wow.
I was just going to second it. I'll third it. Yeah, Anita,
No
really
good, no good deed
fantastic
goes
job.
unpunished.
Honestly though, that's exactly what it feels like I'm happy to like pass on this knowledge, and also be a huge part in the future. Like again, I've learned everything I know from past organizers of events, like shout out to Pat Olson sensei, and to like and Jim Redding, like for their past, like they've been so involved in doing that, and David Humphreys, who I don't know if you're still here, my friend, but like everybody on the like the East Coast, and even like that one time Shugio did. Oh, there you are, David. Hi. Because Rick Shields, who is here, he also helped with the project coordinating along with his partner, with Chris and Wynn. They both were a team, not one under the other. It was they were both in it together. So yeah, like I just learned from observing. I was just very like Aikido has been like such an anchor in my life, and I didn't realize how much I missed it. I think I repressed a lot of those feelings just to kind of hold space for the other stuff throughout the pandemic. So this has been really, I don't know, great. If it hasn't been great for you, please let me know, because we would like to improve on that.
Great. Well, seems like everybody's had a really great opportunity to be connected, and I think it's been really great, everybody. It's so nice to see you all.
So nice to see everybody.
Bye. There you go.
And Dave, is it Halifax next year?
Well, we'll see. We have had some talk about that, and you know, if infrastructure allows things like that to happen, in terms of you know, that kind of group gathering in the places that are available to us, then that's what we're shooting for, right, Ted?
Kelly recommended a group photo, so I'll do that. Just give me a sec to get this chat box out of the way. So if everybody who is not on screen right now can go on screen briefly, just so that I can get like a nice shot in, like a screen grab. I have to do this for a couple of pages, so bear with me. So we'll start page 1. Just smile or be happy. And go. And that was page 1. Page 2.
I don't know what page I'm on. I'm just gonna sit here and smile.
So every yeah, exactly. Just smile. You don't know where you are. So
Yeah.
like let's
Just like a regular seminar photo, John, where you just stare into space.
So
Yeah.
page,
Kind of
so page
smiling.
2, ready, and smile. And oh wait, Colin's coming back. Okay, page 3. Wow. Actually, you know what I should have done? What I should have done was just.
Oh, you're so terrible, Anita. It's
I
just-
am.
Oh my
I really-
gosh.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, all.
Done better. Oh.
Okay, I think I figured it out. Okay, I actually just have 2 pages of on-screen people, so that's great. So hold on. All right, everybody on page 2, everybody ready? Oh, there we go. Wow, we got Ramin to be on camera. All right, and I'm just gonna take one more. I'm so sorry. It's my life. Thanks all. Okay, we're good. We were good for photos. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you all.
for suggesting that.
Thanks,
Kelly.
everyone.
You take care.
Ishiyama Sensei, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Ishiyama Sensei. Oh, thank you.
Yes, I'm here.
Pat Olson here.
Yes, Pat.
I just wondered, we talked about summer camp, but we're still looking forward to having fall seminar in Vancouver. Is that possible?
Are you talking about this fall or next fall?
No, 2022.
Yes, it's our plan that we're going to have.
Oh, good.
We will host the 2022 fall seminar. So that's still, the
Great.
plan is still intact.
Oh, right. Right.
Thanks
of
for
course.
asking.
Thank you so much, Isha.
Well, Anita, you've done a great job, you and your team. I'm so impressed.
Oh,
And thank you so
Sensei.
much.
Thank you, Sensei. It was my pleasure. I'm so glad you could make it and you enjoyed yourself.
The discussions really had high quality in both presentations and organization too. So I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Like everybody who were leading and part of those discussions were just there was a lot of love there. Like it was, I don't think we would get this kind of quality conversations if people didn't care so much.
I'm sure Kara Sensei was
Anita.
smiling at us
Hi.
with this, such wonderful success.
Amazing.
Anita, same comment from me, Yumi. And you and your team did an excellent job as all volunteer. We really enjoyed and great work.
Thank you so much, Yumi Sensei. That means so much. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your help as well throughout this. Your guidance was like so necessary. Thank you.
Oh, no, you guys did an excellent job. And all the people behind the scene, I can see Ted's face too. And a lot of volunteers, I heard how hard they're working. And each class I really enjoyed. I was hiding of some part, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, so I'm going to log out. Anita, I assume that we're going to have some sort of like little wrap up, unless we're going to do that now and we can hold on longer.
I don't know. Does everybody like on the board just want to spend the rest of their Sunday, with their families? Yeah. So we could debrief at a later time, but please rest up. You've had a lot of screen time today for most of us, or maybe too much for some of us. Yeah, we can do that some other time. I'm just like slowly waiting for people to on their own terms, head out. And if you want to stick around and say anything, I'm happy to be here.
Nobody wants to log off.
See you all. See you all in 3D soon, I hope.
Bye, Jim Sensei. Thank
Bye,
you.
Jim.
All right, well, I'm gone too. Good to see you, Anita, and great job with everybody. It's wonderful.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you, David.
Hey,
Bye,
bye, friend.
all. Bye, Val. Bye, David.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Sebastian. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Kat. Thank you.
Bye, Anita.
Bye, Teresa.
Au revoir.
Who else am I seeing on the screen here? Oh, there's Colin and Ted. And, just everyone that I haven't seen in such a long time. It's so good seeing all of you here.
And to you, Teresa. I really enjoy looking at your name on the screen.
Yeah, I actually had to send a little note to Anita how to pronounce it. So next time she has to say my name, now she's got the phonetic pronunciation. Usually if somebody asks me how to pronounce my name, I say Smith, and that usually garners a really weird look. But anyway, yes, it was wonderful seeing everybody, and I'm so glad that there's so many people. I was looking at the numbers, 90 people from just about everywhere, and for this virtual seminar. And wow, I'm really amazed, and it'll be good to get back on the mat so see everybody else in person. And I was going to say, John, was that you? Was that me that you were referencing in that little thing about
Yes, it was.
Now I know what you were doing, you little rascal.
Well, it was. We worked hard together, Teresa, and it was a great example of two uke and nage working together. And
Well, I really appreciated the work that you did as my coach for the first Q and as well for the Shodan test. I don't think I could have passed either one of those tests without your help. And it was, no, I mean, I'm serious, because you taught me consistency. And that was the most important thing that I think that I brought out of that experience was learning about consistency. And so when I found myself training for the Nidan test and I didn't have you there to do that, I had to go back and think about everything that you taught and apply it. And one of the things that I did, because I remember what you were saying about my breathing, I actually taught myself how to breathe so I could get through a 20-minute test without dying at the end of it. So.
Yeah. Well, it takes practice and hard work, Teresa, and I appreciate you saying that, but you passed the test at the end of the day, no one else.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you.
Agreed. And everybody saw that, so no worries.
Well, not the Nidan test, but that was fun. Not.
Sorry, I'm just gonna stop recording.
Yes.